This is the Startup Tri-Valley podcast, featuring in-depth conversations with the leaders who are making the Tri-Valley the go-to ecosystem for science-based startups. I'm Yolanda Fintschenko from Startup Tri-Valley.
I'm Hazel Wetherford, Deputy City Manager for the City of Dublin.
So today I'd like to welcome Chun Jiang. She is the CEO and co-founder of Monterey AI, which is a Tri-Valley company located here in Dublin. Chun, welcome to the pod.
Thank you for having me.
So let's start off. If you could just tell us about who you are, what your company does, and what you do in the company, and a little bit, not to reveal too much of your secret sauce, but your technical innovation or business innovation that makes Monterey AI unique in the market.
Ooh, that's a lot of questions.
Yes.
But awesome. I'll start with myself. My name is Chun Jiang, and I'm CEO and co-founder of Monterey AI. I came from data and ML background. And so my first job out of college was doing product and design at autonomous driving department at Uber. And after that, I went to a small company called Scale AI. And now they're like, 8 billion or 10 billion company there doing this kind of data labeling for machine learning. And then about 1.5 years ago, I started Monterey AI with my co-founder, Ben Kramer, on helping enterprises and helping companies to really make sense of this like unstructured data. So what Monterey AI does, we call it copilot for product insights. So we help companies to like make it super easy to aggregate all your like support tickets, sales transcript, user feedback, social media mentions, surveys, to put them all together and to generate like a product insights for product teams. So usually with the whole process take like a lot of manual hours. And then we all know like the biggest leverage for customer satisfaction and like to resolving customer ticket issues is to like improve the product and the service. Traditionally, all this like data are buried in this kind of like really large scale of the messy data, and then we make it more obvious and easy to consume. So yeah, that's what we do. I think like for a technical secret sauce, I don't know. I think our whole team come from this kind of large scale of like data analytics background. Mm-hmm. So spending a lot of like resources and time to make the platform works, right? Because right now every company is like an AI company. But if you dig a little bit deeper into like what everyone what everyone is building there, what is working, what is not, what is just like a marketing stunt, what is like really putting into the production. I don't know, we just spend a lot of time talking with our customers, leveraging a variety of like in-house models or open source models or closed source models to make this like product experience and platform that really work for customers.
Wow. So it sounds like what you've taken is a very deep voice of the customer approach.
Exactly.
And brought that in to how you develop your AI.
Yeah. We are taking the voice of customer approach to develop a voice of customer programs for voice of customer teams at the
That's
companies.
amazing.
Yeah.
Voice of the customer cubed.
Exactly.
That's great.
So tell me a little bit about what made you venture out and create your own business. Like what was the impetus for that?
Yeah. And then I think my first entrepreneurship try was when I was at kindergarten trying to sell like customized stickers to kids. And I even invented this kind of like wait list mechanism that parents needed to pay me more to get their kids like stickers like faster. So I think I grew up like really wanted to like doing my own business. And then after college, of course, I was kind of like wanting to learn more from like startups, from really successful startups in the world first to understand like what it takes from like 0 to 1 and 1 to 10. And then after being in industry in a while, I think like I'm ready. And then my co-founder, Ben Kramer, he's actually also my partner. So he's always also like grow up in that kind of like entrepreneurial family. So we're like, hey, I was like, Ben, we should do something together. Because we both just wanted to, build something and test it out, learn a lot about like being a business owner, being a company owner. And here we are.
Wow. Mm-hmm. So you and Ben, did you grow up here in the Tri-Valley or did you move here?
I grew up in China. I went to Cornell for college. So I moved to the U.S. about 10 years ago. Ben grew up in Pittsburgh, and then he moved here a couple of years, 7 years, 8 years ago.
Wow.
Yeah.
What attracted you?
Which one?
To the Tri-Valley. Sorry,
To
both of
Tri-Valley?
you. Yeah. Mhm.
Got it. So when we moved to California, we spent like 2 or 3 years in San Francisco. And then I think during COVID, the city itself was definitely not like feeling very safe. It was like Asian there. And then at the same time, we really wanted like a dog. So we're like, okay, what are some areas like or cities that we really like that we can move to, right? And so we did this kind of tour in like South Bay and around like Foster City or like San Mateo, but also like on the East Bay. The thing like Dublin really stick out to me is it's very clean, safe, and new. And then not taking too much of bias of like my personal experience of living in the States, but I do think there are really like few cities that you see this kind of massive investment in like infra and development a lot. And then at the same time, another thing I really like is I can see when we were like touring around the areas, we saw a lot of like, like activities that are organized by like government. So all the things like and like festivals or school or after school programs. I never experienced that like in living on the East Coast or living in San Francisco. And that was the thing that to me. I'm like, Ben, I think this city is like really growing there. And this was like 4 or 5 years ago when the city was not that popular yet, but for the past like 4 to 5 years, like we saw like Dublin is always the fastest like growing city there. And then this is really good to pair with like, our company because like when we want to grow the company, we wanted to find a place that gives us this kind of like pro-growth like mentality there, right? But yeah, there's a lot of rambling there, but definitely love the city.
That's amazing.
That is great. So talk to us a little bit about, for our audience, talk to us about defining some of these terms like artificial intelligence and machine learning and such.
Yeah. So I would say artificial intelligence and machine learning, sometimes the terms are using like interchangeably. But in general, like artificial intelligence, you can think of it's not like human intelligence, but it learned from human intelligence. So really allowing the computers or allowing the programs like to perform the task or perform like complicated tasks for you. So for example, like recognizing it's like water bottle and understanding what needs to be done today, helping you like organizing different like schedules. And then you also see like cars like moving self-driving in itself. So letting the machine to learn about performing the complicated or complex tasks for humans. And this is kind of like artificial intelligence. And another point is like artificial intelligence always like can learn and improve by itself. So it's like teaching a kiddo, right? Like growing up, like once you lay the foundation for them, they can like start exploring the world by themselves. And then machine learning on the other side is more kind of like a more practical term used by computer science society. So it's like, okay, how do we put together the data? How do we architect the models to allow this kind of artificial intelligence to happen? Because if you wanted to teach a computer about like, okay, when you see this water bottle, it is a water bottle, then you need to have like millions and trillions of like water bottle image there for the machine to learn. So the whole process of like collecting data, cleaning the data, building like a model on top of it, and then iterate on top of that, that is called like machine learning practice there. The other term that might be helpful for the audience to understand here is the large language model. That the term has like been so popular in the market right now. So large language model is mainly to focus on like machine learning, but for the language part. So really allowing the model to like understand what you're talking about and using the text like input. And then when the model like communicate back to you, when the AI communicate back to you, it's also in the form of like text. So yeah.
Thank you. That's really helpful. So I want to kind of loop back to your kindergarten story.
Awesome.
Because that's what it shows is, I mean, obviously then you weren't doing AI, but you had this idea of paying for the waiting list, which is a business innovation.
That was the early concept of NFT, I think.
So we're really interested in kind of the piece of what in your life do you think has prepared you to innovate, and also how has some of that innovation translated, whether it's technical or business, into Monterey AI?
Yeah. I think in the early childhood, when Ben and I talk about this a lot, because like investors would ask us, right, like, why do you start your business? What is like motivating you? I think a lot of things that how we observe like our parents build their like own business, how they like really putting like customers on the centrics, how they like iterate business models, how they like pivoting, how they struggling, how they like getting things like working. All of this, like both of our parents are really, really like humble people. They never like educate us or tell us like, oh, this is how we should do things, but we like observe like everything and remember everything. And then when we are like growing the team, when we are testing the idea, when I'm talking with like customers, all this memory will like flood in, and we're just like feel very natural of doing the right things there. I think that on the innovation side, I always grow up trying to do things the easiest way. So it's like trying everything to automate the things that I need to do. So one of the reasons that we started Monterey AI was when I was at Uber, every time I have like product ideas, I want to test it. It is so hard for me to get like relevant data and evidence to support like my idea. I need to like wait for a data scientist. I need to wait for customer success. I need to wait for a sales team to give a little bit of siloed data from their department and try to merge things together. I don't like wasting like life and time doing this kind of back and forth and then waiting and then get it together. It's just way too manual for me. So I will always think from like automation side, like, okay, how do I automate this? How do I make my life easier? I would say that is probably one of the innovation like forces myself.
Interesting. So if you find yourself doing something more than once, your first thought is, how do I not have to do this then if I know I'm going to do it?
Yeah, exactly.
Well, and I love that you want to make your life easier, like many of us do. Like, how can I do this?
Yeah. The other day, I was looking at our washing and like dryer machine. I'm like, why there hasn't been a huge market for like combining this two? Why do I need to spend time like switching the laundry from one side to the other one? So from like big things like business to small things like life, I always think about how to like automate it.
So automate and optimize.
Exactly.
And kind of bringing it back to that ethos you grew up with and that your partner grew up with, which is this customer focus, which is really amazing. Not everyone has such an external focus. So it's an interesting combination of, you kind of know what you yourself want. Like, I want my life to be easier. And at the same time, having the humility to say, I don't know how my customer thinks their life would be easier. I have to listen to them. That's a very unique and strong combination.
Thank you.
So as we go into how you've raised your seed funding, I'm just curious, the name Monterey AI, where does the name come from?
I bought that domain about 4 years before we started the company. I knew it would be something around AI. So I picked like AI as the domain, like ending there. And then Monterey is always some place that I would love just to drive there during the weekend. If I want to, some like personal time and then let the ocean calm me down a little bit. So that's like my favorite area. So yeah, that's
so it's a location. Yeah, I love that.
Yeah.
I love that. I always like to understand the naming behind a business?
There's not much behind it, but
Well, company
It's
names
your
are
happy
really
place.
personal. It's like
your
naming a
happy
child.
yeah.
So talk to us a little bit about your seed funding and how that has gone.
We raised about $3.4 million about 1.5 years ago. So we went through Y Combinator. And then after the Y Combinator, we raised a C round from a lot of like my favorite like angels and like really good like seed funds there. We're being like really capital efficient. I think that is another thing that current wave of startups have learned from the last like boom about like 2 years ago is like if you're building something really good, people will like pay for it. And then at the same time with all this AI innovation, the team can get like more and more and more efficient there.
So your capital efficiency is built in.
Yeah. It's the same with like automation. I'm like, okay, how do I optimize?
What do you think besides the innovation of your company itself, and what about the Tri-Valley ecosystem contributed to your success?
Location is really, really good. I think like Tri-Valley is in this like sweet spot is like close to San Francisco and the Silicon Valley, but it fits into my personality more. It's like humbling, but also growing like really fast. So we have this kind of like advantage of like getting close to all the resources we need, but also can, get away from all the distractions there. So that's like my favorite part about Tri-Valley. And again, like the investment that the city is like putting into all the like programs, all the like new buildings, all the like, malls and the restaurants. I love growing with the city. This is something I definitely didn't expect before we moved here, but now like I'm appreciated like every day.
Nice.
Yeah.
Wonderful. Talk to us a little bit about your clients. Like, what are some of the projects you're working on and your clientele?
Yeah. One of the biggest clients that everyone probably know is Comcast. So Comcast like spends tons of like time and money on really helping like our customers, improve their experience there. So what we do are kind of two projects. The first one is that, working with their like customers, saying like accessibility team, right, to aggregate all the site data from like support tickets, instant reports, social media mentions, and tell them like, hey, how many people are having issues with, using the streaming devices on this iPad, like 13, because they need to like update. How many people are having issues in this area versus that, and then are they like on the representative group, or are they having issues because the reliability like a provider there. So a lot of this kind of analytics on top of like really, really large amount of data, and that's something we help them to do. And the other use case would be like helping them to better serve their like internal employees. So they actually have like really, really large scale of like employee survey data come from their operation teams. And then if you think about like how much like companies are spending on like training and making their operation team like more efficient, that's like just a massive. So we gather all those data together and then tell them like, hey, this is what are the top like opinions or feedback their tech operations have versus their like retail operations. So the leadership like know, okay, where should we spend like more resources on? What are some like repeating issues that we definitely need to like solve there? How do we provide more support for specific areas? Is this like a local issue? Is it like national issues? So a lot of like great insights are getting mined from this like data.
That's amazing. It's a very powerful listening tool, and you're listening to something that's very unique and orthogonal to what, say, a PR listening tool would listen to, which isn't so much related to the actual performance.
Yeah.
That's...
I really like that analogy. We call it kind of like listening at scale. So traditionally, like companies or organizations are spending a lot of time like launching surveys, working with like agencies. Everyone wanted to create this kind of personalized experience or trust with their customers. But the biggest like challenge there is that, okay, how do I listen to customer feedback at scale and to help me build that like relationship, and then we make that happen with AI.
That's amazing. I think especially what I really like about what you're saying here is the personalization with AI, because I think that there's often a perception that AI is removing a personal experience instead of and taking the place of relationship. And what you're describing is applying AI to build a relationship, to take things that are at large scale and create a customer experience that is actually very personal. And to also use that having something happening at a large scale is important. It's important for a company to know, for example, everyone is submitting the same complaint at this time or with this process or has experienced a slowdown, and that there's some power in addressing something that's affecting a lot of people. It's going to feel personal, because that's how it feels when you try and do something and it doesn't work. It feels like the universe is frowning on you.
Yeah.
So I love that you've recognized the power of AI in creating and building relationships.
Yeah, it's definitely about like how to use the AI, and I think private sectors and public sectors have definitely had like more responsibility to train that from. And 'cause like you said, like my guess is when people are talking about AI is like taking away the personalization, is like, okay, we are getting same responses from support ticket like all the time. Or when you're using like AI, you're kind of like getting, or you're asking like ChatGPT, the way they communicate back to you is like exactly the same across like all the audiences, unless you're like prompting it really hard, right? So I think like with how to use the AI for the right thing, and what are the risks, what are the things that we can improve, that's like everyone's who are building it and need to like communicate with the public more.
That's really insightful.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And speaking of insightful, what are some of the things that you were surprised by as a founder, thinking of our audience in mind, those that are founders or looking to start up a company? What are some of those challenges, surprises that you encountered?
Again, I think like building things in a scalable way, I am still like learning more about it like every day. So I kind of have, like I do things extremely fast. And then I'm also very good at like connecting dots from different like concepts there. But like when you are communicating with the team, when you are growing the team, it's important for me to kind of like break down things and to explain things like one by one. My co-founder is like really, really good at it, and I'm on the extreme side. Sometimes I get frustrated. I'm like, Ben, why can't you like understand me? I'm being very clear about this, right? But actually, like from point A to point B, people have different way of like understanding how the route is like going from point A and point B, and maybe they just like I'm the one who's not providing enough the environment or like context for why I think this is the way of going from A to B. So a lot of like communication, a lot of like, okay, how do you manage team? I think that it has been the biggest like learning or personal growth I've ever felt. And it's really fun. I think like, again, like we are trying to build a tool to allow the companies to like personalize this relationship with their millions of users, right? Like as a human, like we should be better at the AI, so like AI can learn from us. So
It's a common theme, though.
Yeah.
What you're sharing is the common theme because many founders are used to doing the work.
Yeah.
And that's what they want to do, but not leading the team and leading everyone in a direction.
Building the company.
Yeah. Sometimes you need to like just forget about all the small tasks that you really wanted to do. It's like shut myself like from it, but really focusing on the big pictures. Yeah. What else?
What about lessons learned? Like if you could go back and start.
I want to jump in and ask because you've obviously learned a lot. And I'm curious, what resources did you use to gain this skills that you've built in managing teams and communicating and also that self-awareness, because those two things came from a place of deep self-awareness that I mean, most people don't start with that. So
yeah, I'm always very like brutally honest with myself, and then if taking like all the emotions away, I'm like training myself like training a model. If I'm not good at this part, I just need more data and practices to do it. So kind of like optimizing myself and growing myself without like getting like offended of that. Our team like yell at each other all the time. Like I don't take like I don't feel offended like whatever feedback they give me. But I always spend time thinking about, okay, if this is the problem, how should I be better? And then once you get like used to it, it's just like a routine for you. The same was that when you're doing like workout, right? Like you kind of want to set like a goal, and then if you're not performing here, then you go like online to find out, okay, why am I not getting the speed I'm doing yet? I think another really, really useful like resource is just like talking with successful like founders who are years like ahead of us. Ask them about like, hey, when you were on that stage, how did you solve like this problem? And honestly, every company is different, but all the problems are pretty similar as like founder. And then you can also like learn a lot from talking to them.
So how did you find these founders? Was it through Y Combinator, or you've just cold called people on LinkedIn and said, hey?
Yeah, I'm definitely very lucky. I think since the very early stage of my career, I've had like really, really good like mentor and helps from all the people that I admire. Yeah, I think, and that's another like tips for folks that who want to start a company. Just don't be afraid of like reaching out to people who are maybe 5 or 6 level above you in big companies. Because if you have very concrete like questions, people will love to help you. And of course, like Y Combinator, it's giving us a lot of like resources to like help us think through like problems there. And then other than that, just like personal network, like all my angels. As long as I have like very concrete like things to ask, they will have like really sharp like answers right away.
That's fantastic.
Yeah, and that's a common question is always the network. Like, how do people tap into that network? How did you create the network? And so thank you for sharing that. And what about here in the Tri-Valley, like Livermore, Pleasanton, Dublin, San Ramon? Have you tapped into a network here? Or is this just across the state, across the country?
Yeah, across the state, across the country. I think we got reached out by some like teams and organizations or Tri-Valley AI group and Copilot Ventures after we closed the seed round. So excited to connect with them.
Oh, that's somebody we may want to tap into.
Right.
For our AI summit.
For sure. Definitely. And I know I did interrupt you, Hazel, but I think what you were going to ask was related to who or what has been the most helpful to you and for your company's growth. And we may have touched on that a little bit, but if there's maybe anything you haven't talked about related to that.
Again, like the person I look up to the most is the CEO of Vercel. Vercel is this kind of developer platform. They're a couple $1 billion unicorn. So their CEO name is Guillermo Rauch. He is the one that showed me like how a really, really, really good like CEO and founder is. Always like hyper responsive, always like love helping and supporting people, and always very focused on like a product and focused on like serving the customers. Sometimes I wonder how he has like so much energy like every day to always be on top of like everything. But the way he like, really help the team grow, help like his portfolio companies grow, and that is just someone that I really want to be one day.
That's amazing. It's great to have a specific person to model.
Sometimes like learning by copying, right?
It's definitely easier.
Yeah.
Back to I want to make my life easier.
Yeah.
So where do you see Monterey going in the next 3-5 years? What are your goals, your long-term goals and short-term goals?
Yeah, honestly, just keep growing, serving customers. We have a lot of things like on the roadmap from like product perspective. So I always talk about the vision of like product development simulation system. So right now, the whole process of like developing a product in tech companies involve like, okay, we need product managers, we need like designers, we need like engineers, and we need to run a lot of like A/B testing and to deploy to user and get like data from them for feedback. A lot of like product improvements will be autonomous very soon. And one of the reasons is that, okay, we are holding all this like really, really precious like data gathered directly from the users. And then we know like with the AI help, like we know like how much prediction or how much correlation we're going to have between user feedback or to all the like product decisions to like business outcomes. So building the platform to the stage that we can help like serve generative like code, generative like product design, generative customer responses. That is just like super exciting for me. And then I think we're definitely on the right path to it.
That's amazing. That's so powerful.
Thank you.
Yeah. So taking generative to the next level, really.
Yeah.
That's amazing. So before I move on to my next question, actually, you've referenced your team a lot. How many people are you guys right now? And what's the breakdown of sort of skill set backgrounds from your team?
Yeah, we have 7 people, mostly engineers. We're also actually hiring another customer engineer, so who can like help like customers understand more about their data warehouse, about how to use the AI. So that's an active role. If anyone has any like referral, definitely find me. Yeah, so I think again, like with all like AI innovation, there are a lot of automations that we are putting on like marketing, on like sales like outbound, on like engineering like testing. So I think growing team in the most efficient way, in a lean way, that is like and then like a passion there to see how efficient we can get there. But at the same time, not like a burn everyone out.
Right.
Yeah.
That sounds like a challenge, and that kind of brings me to what challenges you see as you look at your company's future.
Yeah, I think one of the biggest challenges we're facing right now is like the whole education of AI is still on a very early stage with like enterprises. So we spend it's like a software company, right? Like we're spending a lot of time like doing consultants work. Nothing like we are selling the product as like consultancy, but like we are spending time, a lot of time like with customers, helping them understand like, hey, if you want to deploy AI, if you want to deploy Monterey AI into your company, this is what we need. This is the engineering resource we need from you to help like clean the data. And then how do you see Monterey AI will be in your company for the next like few years? All this like deployment plan, onboarding plan, iteration, just need a lot of like time and resource from like both sides. So again, like how do we make that process repeatable for Monterey AI? That is something that I'm still thinking. Sometimes it will be like, okay, yeah, this is just a common problem of like data analytics, but we wanted to find a way to solve that problem.
Do you see that as something that's unique to Monterey AI, or do you think other AI companies that are looking to serve the same types of customers, not direct competitors, but just similarly, do you think that's probably something they're encountering, or is this very specific?
Definitely. This is definitely a industry problem. It is more challenging for us because Monterey AI is taking in a lot of sensitive data. So it's just like more stakeholders to align with.
Yeah, some of the questions I was going to ask. I was curious about the team and understanding how big the team was and what are some things on the horizon. And I guess what are some advice that you would give to someone that's wanting to branch out and be a founder?
Yeah, keep going. I think like the biggest reason the company dies is because founder gave up and then founders get burned out. So definitely take care of yourself. And then, like if there are problems, then try to solve the problem. Keep it going. Don't think too much about like, okay, am I going to fail? Am I going to like disappoint anyone? But really focusing on like spending your mental resources on the product and the customers. And then, yeah, everything will be okay. And just keep refining and keep finding a way out.
How do you create that balance yourself so that you're not experiencing that burnout?
I think I definitely grew up in an environment that everyone put very high pressure and expectation on themselves. I was reading this book, like Excellent Sheep, about I think like 10 years ago. It was a book talking about how like people who go to Ivy League usually live pretty miserable, like mentally, because you're always trying to hit the expectation that the society have for you. But if you think on the other hand, I'm just like, okay, whatever happened to me, actually probably no one really cares except like people from I don't know 10 or 20 people like who are really close to me, right? And then on the other side, like what is the source of like my happiness? My happiness happens when I'm like building, growing, and serving customers. As long as you have like these 2 points click, you kind of like just like fear nothing. Yeah, and then sometimes I do think like I would get like carried away by emotion a little bit. Sometimes waking up one day I'm like, okay, oh my god, we're gonna be a billion company next, like tomorrow. Sometimes I'm like, oh, what are we doing? So intentionally kind of shut that like emotion off and think about like, okay, what are the things that are driving the emotion? That will like help me focus a bit. I know it's talking a little bit more kind of like philosophical, but I'm trying to make it concrete, like tips for people.
That's really helpful, though, using your emotion as information instead of getting drowned by it and getting super curious about it is what you're talking about.
Exactly.
Getting curious about your emotion and leaning into the curiosity and not the emotion.
Yeah. Oh my God, you are putting that in a much better way than I do.
So we covered a lot. Is there anything that you'd like to talk about that we didn't ask about?
Yeah, I think Monterey AI definitely has grown a lot in the past like 1.5 years. And then we've witnessed a lot of the industry change, especially in AI. So for everyone in the audience, if you have like any feedback, if you want to try the product out, if you are looking for a join the team, definitely like find me, and I will love just take you out of coffee, especially in Tri Valley. Yeah, other than that, like if I can be like any helpful to anyone in this area, let me know.
That's amazing. We will make sure and put how to get a hold of you in the show notes.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you for taking the time to speak
Awesome.
with us today and share your insights that are valuable.
Thank you so
Yes,
much.
It
Thank
has
you so
been
much for having
such
me.
a pleasure to have you on the
Thank you.
podcast.
Thank you.